Pleiadian Perspectives on Human Evolution by Amora Kuan Yin. Part 8. Colonization of Earth continued. The Incan men felt at times captivated by these gentle Lemurians. They found themselves laughing with their hosts and hostesses, learning to swim, enjoying vegetarian foods, and bridging language barriers. After a few weeks of exploration on Lemuria, the Incans were enjoying an evening of music and conversation with the Lemurians when a woman asked one of the visitors about their woman. The guest seemed puzzled by her question until she finally made him understand that her people wanted to meet the Incan women. The men looked at one another with puzzled expressions. They could not imagine why anyone would care one way or another about meeting their women. They were just women and did not matter beyond how they served the men and cared for the children. Yet it was difficult to answer the question. The Lemurian women were such an intrinsic part of the whole Lemurian culture, certainly not as important as the men in the eyes of the Incans. But more important than women in their own culture, that was obvious. The Incan men were actually embarrassed by the question and awkwardly tried to reply that they could not see the purpose of bringing women with them. A Lemurian man entered the conversation at that point and asked directly, "Do you not consider your women important enough to bring them here to meet us? We would make them very welcome and comfortable." The Incan visitor replied, "Our women are different. They don't want to travel. They belong at home with the children and their housework. They would not want to come here." The Lemurian man asked boldly, "Did you ask them?" The Incan man got up and walked away without answering. Such an idea had never occurred to him, or any of the other Incans for that matter, and he was too embarrassed to say so. The Incans returned home soon after that night, but the evening's conversation had stuck in their minds. During the journey home they discussed it at length. They realized they were afraid for the women to feel important and valued because they would have no one to control. And yet, these new friends were more joyful and satisfied than they had ever even hoped to be, and the women were respected and treated as equals. Prior to arriving home, the issue was dropped. They decided that they were different from these strange Lemurians, and that it was best not to test the strength of their system. A few months passed without any more trips, though the men secretly longed to go back. Those who had been to Lemuria were noticeably changed when they returned home. They argued less, often walking away instead of yelling and fighting as they had formerly done. These men ceased using so much intimidation to control their wives and children, and were more silent than before. Their wives and children often found them gazing off into the distance as if their minds were far away. The men's hearts had just begun to open and feel traces of joy and innocence, and they could not forget it. At times these men felt lonely, tired, and uninspired. A few of them even tried to explain it to their wives, but they did not know how to be vulnerable and open with their own families, which made them feel even lonelier. Finally, one of the men decided to move to Lemuria with his family. As he began to announce his decision to the others, he was met with mixed responses. For a few of the men, it was the only impetus they had needed to make the same choice. Others were angry about their decision and decided to talk them out of going. But the men were determined to leave. They could not go on living the old way anymore without withering away. And so, Shortly afterward, 10 men, along with their wives and children, left their homes for Lemuria. A few other men went with them to explore the possibility as well. When their boat arrived on shore, the Lemurians were there to greet them with the usual leis of flowers, drinks, and food. The women and children were greeted and acknowledged equally with the men, and the men were relieved to finally let go of their controlling and dominant image and simply be one of those arriving to live on Lemuria. Feasting and celebrations were held to welcome the newcomers. They were even invited to share the homes of their hosts until their own was constructed. All of the men who had come to consider the same alternative lifestyle as their friends soon departed for their homeland to bring their families back to Lemuria as well. Within 100 years of the first Incan explorative trip to Lemurian shores, over 5,000 Incans of both Pleiadian and Ramanian origins, including women and children, became part of the Lemurian culture. They mixed mostly with the south side dwellers, although a few began their own village slightly inland. Meeting the fairies and mer people happened in gradual stages, as it had with the early Lemurians. But all of the people, new and old, were eventually friendly with, and in awe of, their diverse friends. Deep healing took place within the people of Ramanian origins as trust, innocence, emotional opening, and love were refound. They were finally safe to come home to their true selves, and they discovered themselves to be really good people. Self-respect and self-worth were restored in these people, men and women alike. Couples began to heal the male-female pain and separation and to love one another deeply. As the fairies told stories of the goddess, and the mer people shared stories about the stars and the dolphin star people from Sirius, the Incans were humbled and opened their minds even more. They began to develop a new sense of spiritual connectedness and a value system based on honoring the sacredness of all things and all people. Their hearts were filled with gratitude and love for the original Lemurians, the mer people, the fairies, and the dolphins. They even learned to understand the roles of animals as guides and teachers about instinctual nature and the full use of their senses. When the first Incan Lemurian was called to Mount Wabasi, about 100 years after their people came to the continent, a great celebration was held in honor of the initiation ceremony that was to take place. The woman who was called was named Glory. That was not the way it was pronounced, but it is the meaning of her name and what I will call her. Glory was 23 and the new mother of twins, a boy and a girl. She had been named because of the feeling she brought about in people at her birth. Her eyes were very clear and bright. Her parents felt she was the glory of their lives, since she was the first child born to them after 15 years of marriage. Glory had seemed to be a normal child, but with a very empathic and caring nature. She was never a self-centered child, even in the normal stages. It was as if she had been born to be aware of and sensitive to the needs and feelings of others. When she was called to the center of the island, Glory's babies were only 9 weeks old. She was told to leave them with a woman who had just lost her newborn baby. This was a heart-rending challenge for Glory, and yet she reasoned that after becoming an initiate, she would bring so much more to her children than she could otherwise. Therefore, she knew she must go. After 6 months, Glory returned and shared care of her 2 children with the surrogate mother. She was again called to Mount Wabasi when the children were 2 years old to take her next initiation. There were 4 such trips to Mount Wabasi, by the time the children were 10 years old, after which Glory was a fully enlightened initiate priestess. By the end of her third trip to the mountain, temples had been built in which the Mount Wabasi initiates did healing work and spiritual teachings for the Lemurians. The priests and priestesses did not initiate people or teach the advanced mystery school trainings, but they did teach basic morality, ego transcendence, harmony with nature and the goddess, herbal and flower essence healing, and ceremonial and ritualistic practices. For instance, the Lemurians were taught to honor the seasons on the equinoxes and solstices. They were taught to recognize specific stars and constellations and their higher purposes and meanings. The Lemurians sent prayers and offerings to the stars and the star people. They danced and celebrated on every full moon. Marriages and sex were sacred beyond measure and sources of great love and joy to the people. Glory's son, Matthew, as I will call him, was the next Incan to be called to Mount Wabasi. He was only 16 at the time, and one of the youngest to ever have been called. Soon afterward, 2 other Incans were called, and the people of all group origins were very supportive and delighted by these new initiations. When Matthew returned a year after going to the mountain, he announced that he was to marry a young Incan woman who was currently inside the mountain. She was named Mara, after the original Ma-Ra, as were a few other females. Matthew and Mara would move to an Incan village and take the Lemurian sacred ways to their people back in their original territories. Development of Incan spirituality. When Matthew and Mara arrived at the land of the Incas, they were met with much curiosity and skepticism by most of the people. There were, however, a few villages where Incans of mostly Pleiadian roots lived, and in these villages spiritual practices indigenous to the Pleiades had been established. Matthew and Mara were pleased to find these villages and discover that there were several areas in which the aspects of spiritual traditions were similar to, and in some cases, identical to, those of Lemuria. It was, therefore, easy for them to stay in these villages first, sharing and comparing the two spiritualities and blending them together. The primarily Ramanian-based Incan villages were still basically patriarchal and non-spiritual. Matthew and Mara established small temples and ceremonial stone circles where they conducted equinox, solstice, and full moon gatherings. All of the Incans were always invited to every gathering. A few of the Ramanian-based villagers came to see these ceremonies from time to time, but they were by far a small minority. It was around 150 years after Matthew and Mara joined the Incan villages and began teaching there that the Incans finally united for a common purpose: to protect their villages from invasion and destruction by a group of still primitive hostiles. These hostiles were from an area to the north of the Incan territory and had left their home on an explorative journey looking for more food sources. When they stumbled upon the first Incan village and saw the comparatively rich lifestyle of its people, the invaders raided the village and stole as much food, tools, and pottery as they could carry. The Incans were caught completely off guard, and therefore the hostiles were able to steal freely. The thieves returned to their own tribe at the northeastern shore of the continent, told stories of the Incan lifestyle, and displayed their loot from the Incan villages. These people, who were the first Aztecs, were eager to go back to the Incan village to learn more about their people and steal more goods. After a half-dozen raids, the Incans sent messages among the villages about the Aztec thievery. As a result, a group comprised of people from every village posted guards around the northern end of their territory and soon stifled the Aztec efforts. When the Aztecs planned a new strategy that included attacking the guards, they were met with more sophisticated Incan means of self-defense. The Incans, however, had agreed to try and take prisoners and find out who these people were and why they were raiding their villages. When 6 Aztec men were captured, the Incans realized communication would be much more difficult than with other groups. These raiders were still speaking with hand signals and grunts, and were extremely superstitious about drawing images. Only the simplest messages about basic survival needs were successful in the beginning. Eventually, the Aztec prisoners numbered around 30 people, and communications broadened somewhat. The Incans were able to let the Aztec prisoners know that they could go if they would lead the Incans to their people. They also assured the prisoners that no violence would be used if they were cooperative. By the time the Incans led their prisoners out into the jungles toward the Aztec camp, all of the Incan villages had united for protection. Trust bonds were forming between the diverse groups, and evening conversations among the Incan people included sharing stories about similarities and differences. It was the first time the people of the many villages had truly been open to, or had seen a need for, more intimate communication with one another. Their shared vulnerability served to help them open to each other in a whole new way. And as the problems with the Aztecs were resolved, at least temporarily, the Incans became a closer-knit group. The spiritual, ceremonial practices were more widely shared, as were basic teachings about reincarnation, interrelatedness with nature and the stars, and simple moral laws. Finally, an Incan way of life and spirituality was forming with influences from the Pleiadian and Lemurian cultures, as well as some of their own that were derived from their own personal life experiences. For over 1,000 years, the Incan culture took on more and more of a spiritual focus, though remaining pre-initiatic in its structure and consciousness. The Aztecs, however, presented some problems to the Incans from time to time, but these conflicts were generally short-lived and easily resolved. Resolution came chiefly through sharing of culture, development of communication, and teaching the Aztecs to construct dwellings, make simple tools, store food, and other basic life skills. Therefore, the Aztec nation, which at the time contained only about 1,000 people, evolved more quickly as well. In the meantime, Lemuria continued to grow as the spiritual center for the planet, and with more and more people becoming initiates, enlightened teachers, healers, and priests and priestesses. The crystal cities at the center of Mount Wabasi had initiated and brought more than 1,000 people to enlightenment and ascension by about 2,500 years of Lemurian colonization. At that point in time, there was an influx of over 10,000 new souls to the planet from the Pleiades. Most were born on Lemuria, though around 2,000 were taken to Machu Picchu to establish a spiritual colony there. These Pleiadians were at about the same evolutionary level as those who had begun the Incan civilization in the northern part of the same continent. They came with full memories intact and with instructions about the development of a sacred society in Machu Picchu. Earth's divine plan prepared for and implemented. The Pleiadians, who became Lemurians, were to be the roots of Egyptian spirituality in the distant future. Because of this long-term plan, most did not come to Earth in downstepped hyperdimensional light bodies, but were born as humans are today. These future Egyptians needed to experience the Lemurian initiations in order to fully align with the divine plan for Earth. For 20,000 years, the Pleiadians and other Lemurians continued to expand Lemurian spirituality. The culmination of every initiate's training concluded with a choice to ascend and become higher dimensional guides and masters, or to commit to serving Earth in human form for the divine plan. Though the agendas for future human lives varied greatly, there were common themes. For instance, teleportation to the crystal cities of light inside the mountain was a standard first initiation. At the end of the initiate's training, it was also standard for the people to be shown visions of their own future lives. It was like being shown a map of everywhere you will ever go all at once, just like the original initiate, Mara. Then you would step onto the map, or into your next life, and begin to put one foot in front of the other. Your own higher self, as well as the higher council of 12, would present you with your options, and you would choose. After each lifetime, you would review your life individually and then in relationship to your overall plan to determine what step to take next. Those who were initiated in this way fell into three main categories. One group consisted of those who would ascend and become higher dimensional guides and master teachers without a physical body for the evolution of humans. These beings might, rarely, choose to inhabit a physical body for a specific purpose once in a while, but they need not take on any karmic patternings. A second group agreed to complete the initiatic path and become enlightened in 3 more lifetimes prior to their next lifetime of being born on Earth between 1997 and 2030 AD. 2 of these enlightenments would take place in female bodies and 2 in male bodies. During the precession of their lives, they would take on a primary karmic pattern and myth and transcend it in 2 different spiritual paths, once as a male and once as a female in each path. Ascension or conscious death would be their final step in each case. Many of these beings would experience physical death or ascension during Earth changes in order to assist others into the light. And the third group was comprised of those who would take on 7 specific solar ring karmic themes and transform and transmute each of them through numerous lifetimes. Each karmic series of lives would end in one of 7 different spiritual paths and accumulate in ascension. During each lifetime in which the person would ascend, he or she would be of the same gender, either 7 ascension experiences as male or 7 as female. Twin flames can ascend together in 2 bodies as well, as long as one of the bodies is the same gender as those of the other ascension experiences. This would occur up until the final ascension between AD 1987 and 2030. These beings would experience many lives as male and female, often simultaneously as what you would call twin flames. At the time of their final ascension, these bodhisattvas must have fully integrated all of their male and all of their female lives, and both twin flames into one final human body. That is one reason the emphasis on the unio conjuncto, or sacred marriage, or hieros gamos, is so important at this time now on Earth. The balance between male and female energies internally and externally must be attained now in order for Earth to heal and her people to take the next evolutionary steps. You see, although there was a sacredness and equanimity between both genders in Lemuria, it was a primarily goddess-based spiritual civilization. Atlantis became primarily God-based. Now it is time for a spirituality based on the goddess and the god and divine femininity and divine masculinity and all that is, which acknowledges and practices equanimity, divine sovereignty, and transcendence of duality. In order to ascend, a being must have balanced his or her inner male and female energies and surrendered into the divine oneness with all that is. Those who chose, and were chosen for, this third Lemurian path of 7 ascensions prior to leaving Earth, would do so in 7 of the following cultures and spiritual paths: Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt, Maya, Inca, Aztec, Machu Picchu, Aboriginal Australia, India, goddess druid groups in Europe and England, Buddhism, Christ consciousness, Bali, and other smaller indigenous spiritual communities around your world, such as the Hopi, other Native Americans, Africans, South and Central American tribes. Prior to the 7th ascension, a blending and remembering of all of the previous 6 ascension experiences naturally occurs. The final ascension takes place when the other 6 spiritual paths have become fully integrated into the body consciousness. And the body consciousness must be fully aligned in the pillar of light with all 9-dimensional aspects of the person's higher consciousness. Many of you who are listening to this book were most likely enlightened and or ascended in Lemuria and chose either the 2nd path of 4 enlightenments or the 3rd path of 7 ascensions. Some of you may have been in Lemuria but did not complete your initiations at that time. If this is the case, you are here to complete them now in this lifetime. For all of you, the time for remembering is at hand. It's time now. You must define your own myth, your ego attunements, and your solar ring karmic patterns that are in need of transformation and transcendence. You must transcend your shadow ego and unite your divine feminine and divine feminine inside yourself. No one can complete you. You are complete, and you must initiate your own inner completion. Only sincere dedication to impeccability will work for the initiates on Earth now. The time for fence straddling is long past. The time for ego dramas is over. The time for addictions is past. If you are here to be enlightened and or ascend in this lifetime, you can no longer afford the luxury of hidden myths or fascination-based spirituality or New Age fakery. Your spirituality can no longer be merely an aspect of your life you engage in once in a while. It must be the focus and foundation of your life. All aspects of life are sacred and joyful and are experienced as such before anyone can complete the evolutionary journey home to oneness. You might as well do it in this lifetime. Author's note. The following is an excerpt from a channeling by Ra in my first book, the Pleiadian Workbook, Awakening Your Divine Ka. By the year 2013, everyone who remains on Earth must have an understanding of the following 4 evolutionary principles. 1. Our purpose here is to evolve physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. 2. Every human being is a divine essence made of light and love, whose nature is unconditional love. 3. Free will is an absolute universal right. Impeccability calls on the self to surrender its free will to divine will in faith and trust. 4. All of natural existence is sacred beyond how it serves or meets the needs of the individual self. At this time, every living human is being presented with these 4 spiritual premises in subtle or direct ways. It is a planetary law that before the end of a major time cycle, such as you are in at this time, every single living person must be reminded of the 4 evolutionary principles they are expected to embrace. The 7 solar ring karmic patterns, which are currently being exaggerated grossly in your media in order to be brought into awareness and transformed, are arrogance, addiction, prejudice, hatred, violence, victimhood, and shame. These 7 sources of pain, illusion, and separation are given in the order in which they developed in your solar ring, beginning on Venus and expanding on Mars and Maldek. End of quote. Back to Ra. Though there is obviously much more Earth history, what has been given here is the basic information needed to stir your memories. Remember, this is your wake-up call. The alarm has gone off and the snooze button is broken. This is not a command or a threat. It's simply how it is. Your solar ring and planet are submerging themselves deeper and deeper into the photon band every moment of every day. This increases the amount of light and love beaming onto your planet. Time is bending and stretching and changing. You might notice time lapses or accelerated time period in which you accomplish half or twice as much as what you formerly did. The next day you might find yourself at the end of what should take many hours done in only an hour. You are in a time warp. As you became completely submerged in the photon band between 1998 and 2001, that time warp factor was even more pronounced. It expanded to include more dimensional warps as well. Some of you have been experiencing these for 25 years. You might be sitting at home and listening to this story. As you hear the different messages, you might have visions of being in the City of Light Temple, or inside the Sphinx, or a Mayan ruin, or Mount Wabasi. You had a complete conversation with a higher dimensional being there, or a psychic opening, or perhaps you relived part of your past life. And all of this was literally during the listening of the stories of this book. The shadow ego shrugs it off, even though the body might get full confirmation chills. You will become more and more lucid during your waking hours of the dream and in your sleeping hours of the dream in which you live. These dimensional warps or lucidity bleed-throughs will become more frequent as the photon energies increase. You will begin to hear your own past and future voices calling out to you in those moments in between breaths and thoughts, in between waking and sleeping. You will suddenly experience cellular awareness of being in a different body and in your current one at the same time. Many millions of people will resist their own spiritual awakening and will find themselves devolving quickly. Fatal illnesses will accelerate from early stages to final stages quickly, so quickly that your doctors will be at a loss for how to deal with them. Everything is accelerating. And those who try to keep their foot on the brakes all the time will wear them out and still come to a crashing halt. Your options are still many and diverse, and yet, if you have made it all the way through this book, you are more than likely to make it through this transitional period just fine. Therefore, the messages that I, Ra, bring you are not a threat, and possibly no surprise either. In Part 5, I have asked Amora to present a few techniques or practices to assist you in making it through this crucial transition time from self-exploration to self-mastery. As you do these procedures, be innovative, contemplative, and open to discovering more than what you had already known. If you are not open to newness, you limit your own experiential possibilities. Expand your world. Let go of your paradigms. Become a true rememberer, and therefore a world-bridging dimensional traveler, an anchor of the pillar of light through 9 dimensions here on Earth. And most of all, remember, this is all a dream, and the outcome is up to you. Sola, Re, and Lo. With great love and devotion, Ra, spokesperson for the Pleiadian archangelic tribes of light, members of the Pleiadian emissaries of light, guardians of your solar ring, members of the Galactic Federation of Light of the Great Central Sun, and member of the Universal Federation of Galaxies. Part 5. Processes for clearing and spiritual alignment. Commitment and innovation to remember. When you send out a prayer or invocation to your own higher self, guides, or any light beings, saying that you need help, desire to take the next spiritual step, or wish to make a specific commitment, you are always heard. For instance, when you get stuck and cannot find your way through a problem or situation or attitude, you can call out for help. When doing so, you must sincerely commit to doing whatever is necessary and in your highest good to aid in your own process. Whether you need to understand, forgive, heal, or transcend, life rearranges itself to place what you need in your path. You might have a revealing dream, or meet a new healer to whom you feel magnetically drawn. You might receive a message during meditation, or suddenly remember a deeply buried trauma just as you're falling asleep. Whatever you need will come. Fret not. In this process, you are being guided to call upon the higher council of 12, who serve the light as well as the supreme being of light for Earth. These beings comprise the main spiritual hierarchy for Earth at this time. They are responsible for all guides, all angels, all devas, and the execution of universal law. When you call on them, you need to be very clear and sincere about what you ask them for or commit to. What is being suggested here is to tell them that you are ready to remember your own spiritual myth and divine purpose fully. Then ask them for the help you desire. To make it simpler, follow the step-by-step process below. 1. Close your eyes. 2. Take a few deep breaths. Inhale down to the base of your tailbone, while pulling your consciousness into your body more fully. Then extend your inhalations to your feet while continuing to pull your consciousness into your body. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. 3. Visualize a 4 to 6 inch in diameter grounding cord of light that connects your lower body to the center of the earth. From your root chakra down to the heart crystal core of Goddess Gaia. 4. Ask your own higher self to come and be with you and blend with you in your aura at this time. Wait until you feel or sense this divine presence before proceeding. You may say it just like this. I ask that my higher self comes to me and joins with my aura at this time. Step 5. Invoke the Pleiadian emissaries of light to come and be with you at this time. They will remain near, but outside your aura. You may or may not see, feel, or sense them. Step 6. Invoke these 3 times each, the Supreme Being of Light, also known as the Spirit of Oneness, and the Higher Council of 12, who hold and serve the light. You ask them to come and witness. The Supreme Being of Light, or you may call it the Spirit of Oneness, and the Higher Council of 12. Ask them 3 times each to witness your request. Step 7. Tell these light beings anything you wish to tell them about your spiritual path and the help that you need at this time. 8. Tell these light beings the following, or anything in your own words that carries the same intention. I am fully committed to my own enlightenment and/or ascension in this lifetime. I am also ready to remember my own past, my spiritual quest, and my divine purpose. I ask that the manner and speed in which I remember be that which would serve my highest and greatest good at this time and in the future. Help me have the courage to always act on what I know is needed quickly, graciously, and impeccably. So be it. Please write your own version of that and read it out loud to the light beings. Step 9. Be receptive and listen in case you are given any immediate messages or insights or visions at this time. 10. When complete, or after about 2 minutes, if no messages are given consciously, open your eyes and proceed with your day. Clearing a memory virus. As mentioned in Part 4, when the Maldekians were brought to Earth, it was determined that their memories of the explosion of Maldek be removed. It was believed at that time that these beings could retain most of their evolutionary growth without the specific memories of Maldek, and so this was done at that time. Prior to their births, a type of what you would call a memory virus was introduced to their fetal brains that would block their souls from connecting with the part of their brains that translates soul memories. This part of the brain is located at the top of the brain stem and extends into the brain stem about 1/2 inch downward toward the neck. This memory virus was implanted in all those who came to Earth from Maldek, Orion, and other star systems and galaxies as well. Now it is time for these memory viruses to be removed from Earth's people. The memory virus appears clairvoyantly like a mushroom that is rooted in the upper brain stem, and whose top spreads out above and to either side of the brain stem. Even if you're not sure whether or not you have this virus, this process will not be detrimental in any way and could improve your ability to translate soul memories through your brain. You will use the quantum transfiguration grid to clear this virus. In this grid, an etheric infusion of billions of microscopic lasers of ultraviolet light from several directions enters the cells. In a sense, this confuses the cells, causing them to release whatever is out of affinity and then resume a clockwise rotation. This memory virus is out of affinity with your cells, your normal brain function, and your etheric health. These lasers push this foreign matter out of your energy field and body, disintegrating it without trace. The process used for accomplishing this laser light show requires your involvement in an active way. Since this process tends to seem a little complicated when you first try it, it helps if you first go through the steps mentally and visually in increments. Therefore, practice the following steps prior to actually using the grid on your brainstem area. 1. Imagine a cube-shaped container made of clear glass floating in front of you. 2. Now imagine placing your hands above and below the cube and sending billions of tiny lasers of ultraviolet light through the cube from both hands at the same time. Next, move your hands to the right and left sides of the cube and fill it with ultraviolet lasers from those directions. After that, place your hands behind and in front of the cube, and once again infuse it with ultraviolet lasers from your hands. 5. Now that you have experienced the component parts of the light matrix generated in the chamber, visualize sending ultraviolet lasers from all 6 directions at the same time. In other words, imagine having 3 sets of hands, with one hand on each of the 6 sides of the cube, and sending billions of lasers through the cube from all 6 directions at the same time. You will see that the intersecting laser lines create many minuscule linked cubes of light inside the original larger cube, like a 3-dimensional tapestry of finely woven threads of light. these steps feel confusing to you, practice them until the process feels more comfortable and natural. Then you will be ready to do the actual clearing session on yourself. When working with the quantum transfiguration grid, it is necessary for you to hold the intention and vision of this interlaced grid of laser lights in order to help the Pleiadians anchor the frequencies and light patterns as well. In fact, the easiest way to do this clearing session is lying down. After calling in the Pleiadian emissaries of light, you will ask specifically for the Pleiadian laser surgeons. Then you will place both of your hands on the lower part of your back of your head while visualizing millions of lasers of ultraviolet light streaming through the entire area of your brainstem and lower middle brain. The Pleiadian laser surgeons will assist you in dissolving the memory virus. The following is the process for clearing your memory virus. 1. Lie down in a comfortable position and close your eyes. 2. Call on your higher self to be with you. 3. Ask the Pleiadian emissaries of light to join you and help. When you feel, sense, or know they are with you, ask specifically that the Pleiadian laser surgeons come forth. 4. This is optional, but you may invite any other guides or ascended masters you are familiar with to be with you and oversee the process as well. 5. Tell your guides and the Pleiadians that you are ready to have the memory virus removed completely and permanently. Ask the laser surgeons to assist you in accomplishing this. 6. Place both hands behind your head in the area shown in the illustration. 7. Visualize or intend that millions of ultraviolet lasers penetrate every cell. Focus on the evaporation of the mushroom-shaped memory virus. The laser surgeons will be working on it as well, of course. 8. When the intensity of the energy suddenly dies down, and you feel as if the lasers are no longer meeting any resistance, the process is done. This will take between 10 and 25 minutes. You may move your hands to different positions as often as you like. 9. Afterwards, take at least a 30-minute Epsom salt bath. If you have access to a hot springs, especially a mineral springs, it would be even better. You need to keep the back of your head submerged in the water throughout the soak. Transforming and transcending ego attachments and karmic patterns. In Part 4, 7 solar system karmic patterns were given. They are arrogance, addiction, prejudice, hatred, violence, victimhood, and shame. These are the primary subconscious and conscious karmic vices that were developed on Venus, Mars, Maldek, and Earth. There are also 7 ego attachments that are specific to Earth: lust, laziness, gluttony, pride, anger, envy, and greed. These last 7 are specifically the traps of the negative shadow ego. This negative shadow ego is the aspect of your personality and everyone else's that refuses to surrender to spirit, which wants to be in control and keeps you feeling separate and wants you to feel special. It does not matter whether you feel better or less than, as long as you feel special. This is why the shadow ego is very attracted to victimhood, either being a victim or the victimizer. The ego attachments specific to Earth are part of the Incan Mystery School teachings. Once you have awakened to the realization that you are not your body and your personality, that you are a sacred, immortal soul, the next step is to transcend the shadow ego and become spiritually responsible and purify yourself. Transformation and eventual transcendence of the 7 ego attachments are the way to do so. Recognition and acknowledgement of the karmic patterns and ego allurements that you are still trapped by are essential first steps. This requires being impeccably honest with yourself. To help you with the transformation and transcendence of these karmas and vices, use the following process as often as you feel the need. You will need to use this process for each of the karmas and ego attachments that you are still trapped by. However, you may wish to address only one issue each time you do the process. Take time to really feel and fully experience each part of the guided process. Otherwise, it will not be as effective. The process for transforming and transcending karmic patterns and shadow ego attachments is as follows. 1. Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Then ground yourself with the grounding cord going from your lower chakras to the heart crystal core of planet Earth, and or by using the breathing process for pulling your consciousness into your body as given in step 2 of the previous section. 2. Call in your higher self to be with you. 3. Call in the Pleiadian emissaries of light to assist you in this process. Call in any other guides, angels, or ascended masters with whom you feel spiritually aligned. 4. Choose either a karmic pattern or ego attachment that you wish to begin transforming and transcending. Affirm your readiness to transcend it and ask for help. 5. Think about the most recent experience in which you succumbed to the karma or ego attachment. Remember it in detail. See clearly the place and all situations in which this experience occurred. 6. Observe yourself in the situation and notice how you were breathing. Observe where your body contracted. Notice what emotions were present. Feel into your posture. What did you say, think, and imagine at that time? Be thorough, not judgmental, just witness. 7. Recall the attitudes and responses of the person or persons with whom you had the experience. 8. Now, breathe deeply and let the scene go. Affirm, silently or out loud, I am sincerely ready to give up. Fill in the blank with your issues, such as pride or victimhood. I ask my higher self, my guides of light, and the Pleiadian emissaries of light to assist me in transcending this issue. My true divine self is already pure and transcendent. All else is illusion. Feel free to use your own words or add to these if you like. You may write them all down and open your eyes and read this. You do not have to memorize this. 9. Next, imagine yourself back in the identical situation. See everything that was there the first time. 10. See and feel yourself responding transcendently to the situation and people involved with your new awareness. In other words, imagine what it would be like to be you in the purity of your divine essence, behaving impeccably. Notice how you would breathe in this remake or reframing. Observe how your body is open and relaxed. Notice what you say, think, and imagine. Observe your heart remaining open. 11. Now watch the other person or persons involved to see how they respond to you differently this time. 12. When you have fully imagined, seen, and felt the newly reframed situation as it will be when you have transcended your particular issue, let it go, knowing you have anchored a new timeline. 13. State out loud, I am the divine and pure essence that I am. I completely, unconditionally forgive myself and all others in my past who were involved in that illusion of fill in the blank in which I participated. I am free and clear of this illusion now and forevermore. Again, you may write your own words to that effect and read them out loud. Step 14. Close the ceremony and go on with your day. Male and female energy balancing. The process for balancing your internal male and female energies is very simple. In a meditative space and frame of mind, you will visualize an infinity symbol above and below you. You will affirm your desire to balance your male and female energies internally and in your life. Then you will use a golden infinity symbol horizontally at each chakra location, beginning at the crown and working your way down. The energy running through the infinity symbol will help you to redistribute the energies in your chakras and body between your right and left, or male and female, sides, respectively. The male and female energy balancing process is as follows. 1. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. 2. Ground yourself and bring yourself to a centered and present focus by whatever means is most effective for you. 3. Call on your higher self to be with you throughout the meditation to assist you in balancing your male and female energies. 4. Visualize yin-yang symbols floating in the air above your head and below your feet. Feel your body suspended in the energy fields between these two yin-yang symbols. Relax. Notice any feelings, thoughts, or energy shifts for about 1 or 2 minutes. Intend that these symbols remain there throughout the meditation. 5. Visualize a gold infinity symbol located on your crown or 7th chakra. See the gold energy running through the symbol continually. Ask that the infinity symbol redistribute and balance your divine feminine and divine masculine energies in your 7th chakra. After about 2 minutes, or when you feel the process is complete, move the infinity symbol down in front of your 3rd eye, your 6th chakra. Again, imagine the golden light running continually through the infinity symbol, balancing and redistributing your male and female energies in your 6th chakra. After 2 minutes, or when you feel complete, move the infinity symbol to your throat, your 5th chakra. Intend that the golden light running through the symbol balances and redistributes your divine feminine and divine masculine energies in your throat chakra. Repeat this process for your heart chakra, your solar plexus chakra, your sacral chakra, and your root chakra. This whole process could take 15 to 20 minutes. When you are done, give deep thanks to the golden infinity symbol. See it disintegrate along with anything it may have cleared. See the two yin-yang symbols dissolve, and know that you are a completely balanced divine feminine and divine masculine entity. You may do this meditation as often as you feel a need for it. It may take many times to completely, functionally work. It is also recommended that you work with the divine masculine and divine feminine and the yin-yang love configuration chambers of light as shown in the Pleiadian workbook. Aligning with the higher collective consciousness. Coming into alignment with the higher collective consciousness of Earth's people is a very important aspect of spiritual growth for us all now, and for the planet Earth herself, Goddess Gaia, Mother Nature, at this time. Much competitive and may the best person win types of thinking and behaving have prevailed on Earth for a long time, especially in the more modern cultures of the last 2,000 years. There is, however, in the atmosphere surrounding Earth, a collective that consists of the higher consciousnesses of all of Earth's people. You may think of it as the noosphere. However, there are individual entities living in that sphere, and these beings work together for the highest good of all and to facilitate the actualization of the divine plan on Earth. The following is an excerpt from the Pleiadian workbook about this group of souls. Once in a hypnosis session, I was taken to a place outside Earth's atmosphere where the higher collective consciousness of all Earth's people exists. In this place, I saw billions of smiling, loving faces without bodies, encircling the planet from just outside a clear bubble surrounding Earth. This higher collective consciousness was exclusively made up of loving, sweet, intelligent, innocent light beings, all of us living on Earth. These beautiful ones were observing and sending love and encouragement through the bubble to their counterparts down on the planet's surface. End quote. Mind linking and aligning your purpose with this collective can be more than just your general intent. I was once told by Ra that humans can ask the higher collective consciousness for what we want. These requests are always looked at and considered relative to the overall highest good of the planet. Ra went on to say that when a minimum of 4 people ask at the same time for something that will impact every person on Earth, the collective can impulse everyone on the planet if it is considered appropriate to do so. For instance, I was awakened one morning with the vision of the potential World War III breaking out in Bosnia. Ra told me to gather together between 4 and 12 people on that day and do the process for petitioning and mind linking with the higher collective consciousness. We were to ask the collective consciousness to give everyone on Earth a 1-minute reference point in peace, and to ask the people on Earth to choose not to allow this war to begin. Those of us who requested this were to remain then together in a receptive and meditative state for 10 minutes, holding the energy of peaceful choices. All of us experienced an ever-deepening inner peace accompanied by a sweet, innocent, childlike feeling. In the following process, you will be guided into a mind linking and alignment with the higher collective consciousness of humanity on Earth. 1. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. 2. Ground yourself. 3. Take a few deep breaths and center yourself further. 4. Call in your own higher self to be with you for this meditation. 5. Visualize a very large bubble with Earth floating inside it. Around the outside of this bubble are the angelic faces of all of the humans on Earth. 6. From where you are sitting, send out a golden infinity symbol to these beings outside this bubble. While doing so, repeatedly say, silently or out loud, I wish to connect with the higher collective consciousness of humanity on Earth. Imagine that your energy and message are being carried through the infinity symbol to the collective, and that their love, energy, and or messages are being carried back to you through the infinity symbol as well. 7. When you feel the connection is made, tell them whatever you wish to about your wishes for Earth, all people, and or yourself. Ask them to help manifest these wishes in the way that would serve the highest good for all concerned. Tell these beings that you want to align all of your actions, thoughts, and desires with that of the higher collective consciousness and the divine plan. 8. Relax in a receptive manner for at least 10 minutes and feel the communication with the collective. 9. When you feel things are complete, open your eyes and go on with your day. When doing this in a group, the more the merrier. The process will be identical, except that everyone will petition for the same thing from the collective at step 7. Examples of suggested group petitions are protection for the rainforest, for every human to have a 1-minute experience of being unconditionally loved or loving. Choose one specific thing at a time. Or for every human to know that all of life on Earth is sacred. Or to connect with individual elementals, or other humans, or animals, or whatever you feel drawn to invoke as a group. If your group wants to do longer processes, I have been told that 3 petitions within 1 meditation period are all that can be accepted. The process would then be for the group to align with the higher consciousness via infinity symbols, then take one specific request at a time and petition for it together. Hold the energy and focus for 10 minutes for each petition. After 10 minutes, together petition the next request. Again, hold that focus for 10 minutes. Then petition together your last request, holding the focus for another 10 minutes. It will be easier if you have a spokesperson guiding the process for everyone. You may connect with the higher collective consciousness as often as you would like personally. Group petitions are to be done a maximum of once daily. I would like to end this book with the words to a song I wrote in early 1990. It is my gift and hope for the healing and spiritual awakening of Earth and all her people. Ask, Great Spirit. I wander through this earthly walk, just looking for my home. Sometimes I've thought I'm destined to be lonely and alone. Which way's the right way? Which way do I go? How am I to understand? How am I to know? I look upon polluted lands, and I can find no peace. I walk upon Mother Earth, I'm searching for release. I look up to the heavens, but gray skies appear. I'm listening for the answers, but I have yet to hear. And I ask, Great Spirit, show me the way. And I ask, Great Spirit, teach me today. And I ask, Great Spirit, guide all I say, that I may share with others the light along the way. And Great Spirit answers, I am everywhere. I'm the spirit of the rivers and the spirit of the air. I'm the spirit of the eagle, the buffalo, the deer. I'm in everything you see and everything you hear. And when you look into the eyes of anyone you see, the eyes that are looking back are all a part of me. And you can learn from everyone and everything you see. For everything that's anything is another part of me. The spirit of the stars is calling me home. The spirit of the mountain says I'm not alone. The spirit of the water is telling me to flow. The spirit of the spotted owl is telling me to know. The spirit of the land is crying out for peace. The spirit of the mother is calling for release. The spirit of the sky is asking to be clear. The spirit of the Father is asking me to hear. And I ask, Great Spirit, show me the way. And I ask, Great Spirit, teach me today. And I ask, Great Spirit, guide all I say, that I may share with others the light along the way. And Great Spirit answers, Make this your home. Take care of the mountains, and you'll never feel alone. Clean up the waters, and they will help you flow. Be a friend to Brother Owl, and he will help you know. These lands are in danger, and you must work for peace. Stop raping Mother Earth, and you will find release. When the skies are not polluted, you will then be clear to listen to the Father, to see and feel and hear. And I thank you, Great Spirit, for showing me the way. And I thank you, Great Spirit, for teaching me today. And I thank you, Great Spirit, for guiding all I say, that I may share with others the light along the way. And I will share with others the light along the way.